So now let's look in detail in this segment on the spiritual power of walking. That's right, we're doing a segment on walking, focused on these Buddhist monks, but more broadly on the spiritual power of walking. Now, you may know the obvious power of walking, which is that you'll get in shape, but you may not have known that one of the most basic forms of magic is to undertake a long and arduous walk from one point to another point with a specific intention, and that this is associated with the realization of this intention. If you think this is crazy or strange, I'll give you a great example. The genius, in my view, editorializing of course, filmmaker Werner Herzog, in an interview discussed how one of his great friends, I believe in Paris, I think a filmmaker, if I recall correctly, was seriously ill. Herzog said that he would walk from where he was in Germany, I believe, to Paris, and that she would get better. And he did. He did walk from where he was, hundreds and hundreds of miles away, to Paris, and when he got there, she indeed was better. Now, I'm not saying how this happened or whether there's a direct causal connection. How could you possibly measure that? I'm telling you, Herzog, who is in many ways a kind of hypermodern medieval Bavarian German, understands the old ways. He understands that walking is one of the greatest magical powers in the world. There are many other examples through ancient cultures that still exist in indigenous societies to deceased ancient cultures of these practices. And many spiritual traditions, including Tibetan Buddhism specifically, have traditions of the power of walking. The term skywalker, which you may have heard of, associated with a somewhat famous person named George Lucas and his films, the term skywalker is actually drawn from a practice of Tibetan Buddhists in which they were able to attain the ability to walk, for example, across mountains through the air to other mountains. There's many anecdotes or accounts, including from the ancient Greek world, of people who could cross distances in an impossibly fast way, and they used a spiritual practice that in English is often translated as skywalking. So while this is associated specifically with Tibetan Buddhism, I'm pointing out to you as a scholar of religion that it actually is connected to other cultures as well, although the Tibetan Buddhist connection is very relevant because as the great scholar Peter Kingsley has shown, there may be a very deep relationship between the skywalking practice and the foundations of ancient Greek philosophy. So that's a nice tidbit for all of you interested in such things. So walking, what is it really? Walking is the process of the spirit manifesting itself in the human form. The reason we have such a fundamental use of verbs like aller, gehen, going, from French, German, and English is because the process of moving the body is the most basic way of embodying the process of becoming itself. Every animal moves at a particular rate, which is natural to it. That rate represents the natural course of the energy of that animal in time. The course of things in time is that they want to flow.